His wife never expected that when she returned from a prenatal checkup with her crush, she would find signed divorce papers waiting. She goes completely ballistic, rushing into the study to find the military divorce report. But when she flings the bookcase open, nothing. It is totally empty, leaving her staring in absolute jaw-dropping shock. In his past life, the day Liu Ruyan won her grand medal, she actually confessed her love to her military doctor Ji Boda on national television. She told everyone that without Ji Boda, she would have died in a sea storm, calling him the most important person in her life. Meanwhile, she completely despised her actual husband, who was currently lying in a hospital bed with only a breath of life left, totally worn out from raising their kid alone. After 20 years of grueling labor, he did not even get a single thank you. But the final straw? That came straight from his ungrateful daughter. She told him to leave so Uncle Ji could take his place because they looked perfect together. Overwhelmed by grief, he died in pure regret, only to wake up 20 years earlier. Right before Liu Ruyan leaves for the Coastal Defense Front, this time he refuses to be the nameless house husband. He is going to fly. Now he stands in the Air Force pilot selection office. The commander looks at him with a dead serious expression, congratulating Comrade Long on passing the brutal selection process to become an official Air Force pilot. But he warns him that being a pilot is no joke. Even after getting selected, he faces years of grueling, hard training. The commander asks if he is truly ready. With fierce determination in his eyes, Aotian replies that his late father was one of the nation's very first fighter pilots. He will never back down. He refuses to give up halfway. Deeply impressed, the commander nods in approval and praises him. But then, the officer hesitates, as if remembering something else. He mentions that in 15 days, the new pilots head out for training, but Aotian's wife, Liu Ruyan, is leaving for the coastal defense mission. They will be completely separated. He asks if she approved of this. Aotian just gives a bitter, hollow smile, saying she is probably thrilled to see him leave. After all, in his past life, she gave the only family relocation spot to her darling doctor, Ji Boda. Over the next 20 years, she barely came home. She only returned twice, once for their daughter's adulthood and once to receive her grand military medal. He originally thought that by sacrificing everything so she could protect the nation, she would care. He ran that household single-handedly for 2 decades until he literally collapsed from exhaustion. He honestly believed she would at least mention his name and thank him at the award ceremony. But she only had eyes for Ji Boda, completely erasing his existence. Even the daughter he raised entirely on his own, acting as both mother and father, ended up turning on him. She claimed her mom and Ji Boda looked better together, basically treating her own dad like an annoying obstacle. Honestly, it is so heartbreaking how he threw away his dream for people who did not care. All he got was a cheating wife and an ungrateful kid, but thankfully, he has a second chance. This time, he is soaring high as an eagle. After submitting his papers, he heads back. He rides his vintage bicycle back to the military compound, but as he rounds the corner, he runs straight into a very cozy-looking trio. There they are, Liu Ruyan and Ji Boda, holding little Yueyue's hands on both sides, while the little girl happily babbles away about something. Ji Boda chuckles and pats her head, while Liu Ruyan watches them with the warmest, most loving smile you have ever seen. Seriously, they look exactly like a perfect, happy family. But the second Liu Ruyan spots him, her warm smile instantly vanishes. She glares and demands to know where he has been. She snaps at him for leaving 6-year-old Yueyue alone in the clinic. Hearing her voice, Yueyue instantly stops chatting with Ji Boda and turns around, glaring at her dad. She turns her face away with a cold snort. Clenching his fists, Aotian swallows his anger and points out that Yueyue literally forced him out, demanding only Dr. Ji stay. Even in his past life, Yueyue was always obsessed with Ji Boda before he left with Ruyan. He used to think it was just because the doctor was friendly. But nope, she actually wanted Ji Boda to replace her father. She won't have to wait for him to die this time. In 15 days, her wish is going to be completely fulfilled. Her dream is about to come true, but instead of feeling guilty, Liu Ruyan scowls and defends her, saying she is just a kid throwing a tantrum. She accuses him of being incredibly petty. Aotian looks down at Yueyue, who is clutching Ji Boda's hand like her life depends on it, staring at her own father with pure suspicion. It is like she is terrified he's going to drag her away from her precious uncle. In his past life, Aotian shrugged off this behavior, believing deep down she still loved him most. He thought he was irreplaceable, but now he realizes that kids do not actually hide their true feelings. Every single hurtful word she said was entirely real. Suddenly, Ji Boda kneels down to Yueyue, putting on a show. He gently pinches her cheek, acting all noble, telling her not to get mad at her father since he works so hard. Yueyue just rolls her eyes and pouts.
She waddings that she isn't lying and straight up says she wants Ji Boda, not her father. Seeing her daughter tear up, Liu Ruyan gets even more annoyed.
She glares at Aotian, calling him an absolute failure of a father and telling him to actually pay attention to his kid for once. Yueyue immediately chimes in, completely agreeing with her mother. She complains that her dad does not care about her at all. Hearing both of them gang up on him like this, Aotian can only let out a cold, self-deprecating laugh. Ever since Yueyue was born, Liu Ruyan was always away on missions. He was the one who raised her completely alone, handling every single detail of her life. When she got sick, he was the one staying up all night. On her birthdays, he baked the cakes. When she refused to eat, he spent hours inventing creative recipes just to keep her healthy. Every single memory in that house is absolute proof of his endless love. He poured his entire soul into raising this kid, only for both mother and daughter to brand him as a complete failure. Honestly, the level of disrespect here is insane. But he just does not care anymore. In 15 days, he is gone. He refuses to waste his energy arguing with them. Liu Ruyan is about to lose her mind at his indifferent attitude. But Ji Boda quickly pulls her back, playing the absolute martyr and telling her not to fight with Aotian because of him. And, of course, her anger instantly vanishes without a trace. She gently reassures him that he did nothing wrong, even thanking him for looking after Yueyue. Talk about a complete double standard. Yueyue literally throws herself into Ji Boda's arms, crying that she's telling the truth and that her father is the bad guy. Honestly, this toxic family deserves each other. Aotian is built different for walking away. Fine, you are just the most perfect husband ever. Liu Ruyan rolls her eyes, turns around, and tells Ji Boda that she and Yueyue will walk him home first. Yueyue excitedly grabs both of their hands as they walk away. Meanwhile, our main character just stands there alone, watching their perfect little family silhouette from behind. Honestly, this is low-key heartbreaking. These are the exact people he sacrificed his entire past life to protect, but since they do not care about him this time, he is completely done. He is letting go. As they disappear, he hops on his bicycle and heads straight to the marriage registry office. "Hello, comrade," he says. "I want to file for a divorce." Now remember, divorce back in this era is practically unheard of. The clerk double-checks multiple times, but seeing his determined eyes, she finally hands over the divorce application papers. As long as both parties sign, it is officially over. He tucks the papers away carefully and heads back to the family compound. The wife and daughter are still out, so he casually cooks a meal for one and eats in peace. He is washing his plate when the two finally walk through the door. Liu Ruyan looks at the empty dinner table and immediately complains, demanding to know why he did not make their dinner. He just gives them a quiet look. He looks at his daughter's stuffed round stomach and calmly says, "Did you not already eat over at Ji Boda's place?" See, normally these two are incredibly picky eaters. Even at fancy banquets, they would barely touch the food. Our guy spent years perfecting his cooking just to suit their specific tastes. No matter how late they got home, he always had hot food waiting. But apparently, when they eat at Ji Boda's house, their picky habits magically disappear. Makes sense, though. Ji Boda is the guy they actually care about, so of course they have an appetite. Liu Ruyan freezes up, clearing her throat to make an excuse. She claims they just could not turn down Dr. Ji's invitation. Meanwhile, Yueyue pats her stuffed belly and mumbles that Uncle Ji Boda's cooking is so delicious. She actually says she wants to eat his food every single day. The main character stops mid-wash. An overwhelming wave of exhaustion completely washes over him. He quickly cleans up and crawls into bed. Just as he is drifting off, his wife crawls in and pulls him into a warm embrace. I have something to discuss with you, she whispers. Before he can even say a word, she continues, saying next month she is being deployed to the South Sea. There is only one official family slot, and she wants to give it to Ji Boda. Since Yueyue is young, she does not count toward the limit. So she is taking the kid too. She tells our guy to stay back and look after her parents, promising to send for him once she settles down. Honestly, this is not a discussion. It is an order. He clenches his fists. In his past life, she said these exact same words to him. Back then, he did not understand why the slot went to Ji Boda when he was the actual husband. Later, she claimed the island was remote and had no real doctors. The troops there suffered constantly, and that was her excuse for bringing Ji Boda. After a massive internal struggle, his past self actually agreed to it. His only condition was to keep Yue with him. The island was too harsh, and he knew she would be too busy to raise a child. She eventually compromised, promising she would come back for them and her parents. But that wait, it turned out to be a literal lifetime. By the end, even his own daughter blamed him for separating them, claiming his very existence stole Ji Boda's rightful place. Looking back, this whole doctor excuse was trash. If the island needed medical staff, the military could easily request a doctor. The only reason she used her family slot was because she did not want to leave Ji Boda behind. Ji Boda behind. They wanted a perfect little family of 3. It is actually wild how blind he was in his past life. A heavy weight presses on his chest. He quietly pulls away from her embrace to put some physical distance between them. Sure, he says softly. Liu Ruyan looks stunned that he agreed so easily. She gives him a complicated look. For the first time in forever, her voice softens as she tells him not to worry. She promises she will come back for him so they can finally be a family on the island. He just ignores her, closes his eyes, and goes to sleep. The next morning, she is already busy working in her study. After eating breakfast, our guy quietly pulls out the divorce paperwork.
He stares at the bold red characters in a daze. Suddenly, Yueyue jumps off her chair, runs over, and reads the title. "Dad, what does divorce mean?" she asks.
His grip tightens on the paper. After a heavy silence, he tells her that divorce just means 2 people will live separate lives.
But get this, Yueyue's eyes literally light up. She immediately tells him to hurry up and divorce her mom then.
Her cheerful, innocent voice feels like a physical blade straight through his chest. It turns out his own daughter wanted them split up this entire time. It takes him a long moment to gather himself. He looks at his little girl and asks her with a cracking voice, "Yueyue, if we split up, who are you going to live with?" She does not even hesitate. "Of course, Mom," she says, and Uncle Ji Boda too. The sheer excitement in his daughter's eyes absolutely stings. His eyes grow red.
This is the child he poured 6 years of his life into raising. He really is a massive failure of a father, just like his wife always said.
Yueyue's eyes daily dart around as she suddenly snatches the papers right out of his hand. If Mom signs this, she asks, can you finally get divorced? His throat feels tight, so he just gives her a slow nod. Yueyue literally cheers out loud and runs straight to the study to get her mom's signature. It is actually crazy how desperate his own kid is to get rid of him. Suddenly, a knock on the door snaps him out of it. He opens the door and guess who? It is Ji Boda himself. The guy notices his red eyes and acts all fake concerned, calling him Aotian. What is wrong? He asks. Did Ruyan tell you about giving me her family slot? Are you upset because of that, Aotian? He claims she had no choice because the island needs a doctor, and surely he does not want his wife getting sick. This dude is trying to act nice, but the smug look in his eyes says everything. He is literally gloating about his place in her life. Honestly, our main character, Long Aotian, has already checked out. He has zero interest in joining her military base, so this spot means absolutely nothing to him now. Hearing Ji Boda's voice, Liu Ruyan and little Yueyue rush out, and the kid leaps straight into his arms. Liu Ruyan just smiles. Ji Boda pats the kid's head, saying he loves her too, while our guy has to watch this toxic scene. He blinks back tears. It is time to shop for Beijing. But before he can leave, Ji Boda grabs his hand. The guy smiles, saying he wanted to take Ruyan and the kid shopping too because the island lacks supplies.
He drags Long Aotian along to help. Before he can even say no, he gets pushed out the door.
At the store, Ji Boda naturally holds the kid's hand while picking out items, with Liu Ruyan following right behind him. Honestly, they look exactly like a happy, loving family with her acting like the perfect protective wife. It is actually crazy. Long Aotian just looks away and walks the other direction. That's when a pilot recruitment ad on a newspaper catches his eye. He picks it up, staring at the bold words about guarding the skies. His heart swells with pride. Thankfully, in this lifetime, he actually got selected. He is finally making up for his past life's regrets, but suddenly, Liu Ruyan's cold voice cuts in from behind, asking why he is looking at pilot ads. Before he can react, he just nods instinctively. Liu Ruyan's face instantly drops, and she stares at him in silence. She scoffs, telling him he has zero skills and could never pass. She tells him to stop dreaming and just stay home waiting for her to return. Even his own daughter whispers that her dad only knows how to do chores and has no talent, saying Uncle Ji Boda is way better. She praises him for being a respectable doctor who saves lives. Her voice is quiet, but both adults hear every single word. Liu Ruyan doesn't even correct her. Seeing both his wife and daughter look at him with the exact same disgust is honestly heartbreaking. He feels utterly crushed. They might have met through a blind date, but before marriage, he told her his father was one of the nation's first Air Force pilots. Inspired by his dad, he trained for this since childhood, meaning his physical condition is elite. 5 years ago, he actually passed the Air Force trials. But back then, Yueyue was only a year old. He couldn't bear to leave her, so he gave up his dream. He told them this, but clearly neither of them cared. It turns out they never listened. He wants to throw it in their faces that he got accepted again, but he's worried she will stop him from leaving. So he holds back and just says he is browsing. Liu Ruyan feels something is off. Why is her stay-at-home husband suddenly interested in the military? But before she can think, Ji Boda calls out, and little Yueyue immediately drags her over to him. Long Aotian can only let out a bitter laugh. Once he is gone, they will finally realize he was never just some useless house husband who only knew how to clean. After shopping, they drop Ji Boda off first, as usual, leaving Long Aotian to carry all the heavy bags. By the time they get home, he is completely exhausted. He goes to bed early, but late at night, a loud, emotional crying sound from next door wakes him up. It is their neighbors having a massive fight. The wife screams at Brother Zhao for trying to abandon them to run off on his own, shouting that she will never let him leave. Brother Zhao tries to explain that the conditions out there are just too rough and staying home would be much more comfortable for them. But the wife doesn't care. She demands that either they all go together or he stays right here and gives up the move. Next door, the argument rages. Liu Ruyan tosses and turns, woken up by the noise.
She scoffs at the neighbors, saying married couples should never live apart. Hearing this, his heart aches instantly.
Wait, seriously? She knew all along couples shouldn't live apart, yet in his past life she did exactly that. She left him behind to take Ji Boda instead. To her, Ji Boda was the real husband, while he was just the nanny. He was just someone to do the chores and raise the kid. Realizing this, he struggles to hold back his tears in the dark. In a quiet, trembling voice, he asks why she left him behind then. Aren't they married too? How is she any different from Brother Zhao? Or did she never actually consider him her husband? This is the painful question he has kept buried deep inside for 2 whole lifetimes. But Liu Ruyan just responds with a cold, dismissive tone, repeating that she already promised she would eventually come back for him. She even calls him petty for not understanding her. He wants to scream that she made the exact same promise in his past life. But back then, she broke her word and ended up spending almost her entire life by Ji Boda's side instead. But who would believe him if he said that? Besides, after surviving a whole past life, it is painfully clear she never loved him anyway. He just closes his eyes and says nothing. The next morning, she is already gone for duty. After making breakfast, he gets Yueyue ready for school. As they walk out, Yue hands him a paper from her bag. He opens it and freezes. It is a divorce application, signed by Liu Ruyan. The little girl proudly brags that she got her mom to sign it. This is exactly what he wanted, yet seeing her bold signature still feels like a dagger to his chest. He stares at her writing for a long time before carefully putting the paper away, his heart heavy with a strange sense of relief. Exhausted, Aotian promises himself he will finalize the divorce soon. Little Yueyue cheers and skips ahead, but suddenly stops near the school gate.
She wants to walk in alone. He should head home. It is close, so he agrees, watching her go before heading home to pack his papers.
He clears out everything he cannot carry, knowing Ji Boda will move in immediately. Better to toss it now than let them dump his life like trash. He finishes the last box.
Dusting himself off, Aotian heads to the shower when his neighbor, Brother Zhang, spots him and gasps in surprise.
"Why are you still here?" Shang asks. "Today is parent open day. Everyone is at the school. Is Yueyue sick too?"
Aotian freezes, total silence. He never knew about this in either life.
Assuming Yueyue just forgot to tell him and Liu Ruyan, he thanks Song and sprints straight to the school gates.
The guard stops him, asking which student is his. Aotian scans the busy crowd, desperately searching for his daughter.
Then he spots her, but his voice dies in his throat. Standing right there, holding Yueyue's hand, is Ji Boda. Other kids are showing off their families. Yueyue proudly grabs Ji Boda's hand and introduces him to everyone. She boasts that this is her dad, and he is an amazing doctor. Instantly, the world goes completely silent. Those words echo. He is my dad. Low-key heartbreaking. Watching his daughter proudly display another man feels like a freezing wind ripping straight through his chest. Talk about absolute betrayal. The divorce is not even official, yet Yueyue is already calling this guy dad. Then another familiar figure arrives. It is Liu Ruyan, the wife who claimed she was busy with work. Seeing their happy smiles, everything clicks. No wonder they hid this event from him. The author is cooking up some serious angst here. Mother and daughter secretly plotted to have Ji Boda play the dad role, keeping the real father completely in the dark. He remembers his deathbed in his past life, his daughter ignoring her dying father to happily watch TV. It all makes sense now. She completely ignored his dying breath. Yueyue already accepted him as her real dad, just waiting for Aotian to pass away. He turns and walks away in disgust. Tears stream down his face in the cold wind as he marches straight to the registry, pulling out the divorce papers. He signs with absolute resolve and hands it over. He holds the official certificate. Done. He is free. Over the next few days, Aotian throws himself back into training. He needs to rebuild his physical peak for the capital. Years of playing housewife softened him, but now he is unlocking his hidden beast mode. Talk about a massive comeback arc. Meanwhile, Liu Ruyan is occupied with her upcoming transfer. With no one to babysit on the weekend, he has to bring Yueyue to the training field with some snacks. But of course, the moment she sits down, Ji Boda conveniently appears. Yueyue clings to him instantly, whining for her favorite uncle to play because her actual father is apparently too boring. Seeing her so happy clenches Aotian's fists. Ji Boda shoots him a smug, victorious look, asking if they should get her dad's permission first. This guy is so toxic. Aotian tells her to go play with Dr. Ji, warning her to stay close. He is officially done trying to hold on. Why stop them now? Ji Boda smirks and leads her away. Yueyue happily skips along. Aotian almost calls her back, but stops himself, turning back to his training. But then, disaster strikes. Screams echo from across the field. He rushes over and spots the two, immediately noticing blood dripping down Yueyue's forehead. Yueyue was bleeding heavily. Ji Boda is panicking, desperately trying to apply a piece of gauze from his pocket. The gauze is completely soaked in seconds. Realizing the danger, Aotian scoops up his daughter and sprints to the clinic. After an hour of stitching, the bleeding stops. Ocean finally breathes. He confronts Ji Boda, demanding to know how this happened and why a doctor failed to react to such a severe injury. She could have bled out, he snaps. Ji Boda looks shaken but immediately starts making pathetic excuses. He claims he is not a surgeon and she just jumped off the steps. Unbelievable. This guy is a total fraud. Rage boils inside him. Suddenly, Liu Ruyan bursts in. Seeing her little girl lying there with a heavily bandaged head, her eyes instantly flare with absolute fury. How did this happen, she demands. Before Aotian can explain, Yueyue weakly gasps out that her dad did this to her. Aotian stands there frozen in absolute disbelief. It was clearly Ji Boda who took the kid to that other place. That is why she got hurt, yet they are blaming him.
Shaking, he asks Yueyue one more time who actually caused her injury, but the girl just pouts. Tears stream down her face as she screams that it is all his fault, claiming she wouldn't have fallen if he had been there. She even claims he refused to take her to the hospital and only Uncle Ji Boda helped. Hearing his own daughter twist the truth makes his heart freeze. Every breath is agonizing. The daughter he raised for 6 years is actively framing him. Even with the decision to cut ties, it still hurts. She is his flesh and blood, so seeing her hurt breaks him. But her constant lies just stab his bleeding heart over and over. Suddenly, Liu Ruyan tightly grabs his wrist. She drags him out of the room to an empty hallway and flings his hand away. Her temples are throbbing with rage as she demands to know how he could be so careless. She yells that he doesn't even work and only has to watch their kid, yet he still managed to let her get severely hurt. She even accuses him of delaying her hospital trip, questioning if he is even the real father. Talk about a completely delusional wife, guys. Past and present lives combined, any lingering love he had is officially dead. Only pure disappointment remains. He just smiles. He calmly tells her that since she feels that way, he will stop being the father. He is ready to hand that role and the husband title right over to Ji Boda. He is completely done. Seeing the dead silence in his eyes, Liu Ruyan frowns slightly, feeling a sudden chill. But thinking of her daughter's forehead injury, her heart hardens again. She is convinced he is just throwing a tantrum because she scolded him. She thinks he loves the kid too much to actually leave, but decides he needs to be taught a lesson anyway. She snaps, asking what this has to do with Ji Boda. She claims Ji Boda was just being a good Samaritan and accuses Long Aotian of being ungrateful. He just chuckles, his eyes completely hollow. He asks her straight up if she just wants Ji Boda to be the father so they can finally be together openly. This absolutely triggers her. Furious, she slams her fist against the wall right next to his face. She glares at him, swearing she and Ji Boda are completely innocent. Honestly, that is hilarious. If they are so innocent, why did she keep Ji Boda by her side while leaving her husband behind for nearly 20 years? Why did she only thank Ji Boda when she received her prestigious August 1st military medal, completely ignoring her own husband? Even their daughter told him to get lost to make room for Ji Boda. Honestly, that is crazy. There are only 6 days left until his departure, so he can easily endure this. Without another word, he turns and walks away. He leaves the hospital without giving Yueyue a single glance. Over the next few days, he trains hard and packs his bags for Beijing, completely ignoring his... He does not even check on his daughter's recovery. He finally accepts that these two will never care about him, so why bother? He refuses to humiliate himself any longer. Finally, the day of his departure arrives, which also happens to be the day Yueyue gets discharged. Out of nowhere, Liu Ruyan actually calls him. Her voice is still a bit stiff, but she tells him that their daughter is coming home today. She wants him to cook a big lunch so they can celebrate as a family. That one word, family, actually stings his heart. In his past life, she only came home twice in 20 years, staying for barely 2 hours each time before rushing back to work. They never even managed to have one proper family dinner together before he died. It was his biggest regret. So he decides to agree this one last time just to put a proper ending to his painful past life. It is time to close that old chapter and start his bright new future. After packing his bags, he gets to work. He cooks a massive feast and waits. The clock on the wall ticks past 11:30, then past noon. By 1 in the afternoon, they still are not home. He already knows what is happening, and right on cue, the phone rings. Liu Ruyan actually sounds a little guilty as she explains they are eating out to thank Ji Boda for his help. She hesitantly asks if he wants to join them, but in the background, Yueyue immediately starts whining. The kid screams that she does not want him there because this special lunch is only for her beloved Uncle Ji Boda. He is not even sad. He just chuckles and tells him to enjoy their meal, quietly saying his final goodbye. He grabs his suitcase, walks over to the dining table, and slides his signed divorce papers right under the untouched food. Taking one last look at the house he'd lived in for 40 years across 2 lifetimes, he walks out, never to return. As the military car drives away, his old life vanishes. He is heading north to Beijing, while they stay south. They are officially done. Long Aotian is finally free to soar and protect the nation's skies. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, Liu Ruyan stares at her phone, frowning. A strange anxiety washes over her. He has never hung up on her first, and that final goodbye sounded incredibly wrong. It was just a quick lunch to thank Ji Boda. They were supposed to head back home right after. So why did his voice sound like he was leaving forever? Her chest suddenly tightens with an unexplainable wave of panic. It feels like she is losing something she can never get back. But then, Yueyue loudly demands they order all of Ji Boda's favorite food. Her daughter shouting snaps her back to reality. Looking down at the menu, she tries to shake off the terrible feeling. The restaurant food tasted completely bland to Liu Ruyan. Honestly, she hated eating out because only her husband Long Aotian's cooking actually hit the spot. She originally just wanted to treat Ji Boda to a quick meal to say thanks, but her husband's home-cooked food suddenly popped into her head. She had been so busy visiting Yueyue in the hospital that she hadn't eaten at home in days, and now she was low-key craving her husband's cooking. Liu Ruyan closed the menu and apologetically asked Ji Boda if she and Yueyue could go home first and reschedule. Meanwhile, Ji Boda was playing with Yueyue. Hearing this, Ji Boda's smile instantly froze. He acted incredibly hurt and whined, asking why she was backing out when she promised to eat with him. He asked if Aotian was mad on the phone, while Yueyue immediately grabbed her mom's hand, looking totally annoyed about going home. She whined that she wanted to stay with Uncle Ji Boda because he worked so hard visiting her, completely ignoring her own dad's efforts. With Yueyue begging, Liu Ruyan started to hesitate. As a military commander, she felt like she couldn't just go back on her word. And seeing Ji Boda's eyes tearing up, she completely folded, reopened the menu, and called the waiter over. Ji Boda smiled again, totally winning this round. After eating, the mom and daughter walked this guy home as usual. Before heading inside, Ji Boda acted all caring, touching Yueyue's scar and telling her to keep it dry. Of course, the kid clung to him. She literally told him he cared the most. Ji Boda pinched her cheek, then glanced nervously at Liu Ruyan, acting all worried. He asked if her husband was mad and offered to come along to explain, but Liu Ruyan just told him to go rest. She promised to handle Aotian, thinking her husband was the one who let Yueyue get hurt, so he actually owed Ji Boda a thank you. Ji Boda acted shy, saying once they moved to Hainan next month, they would be the closest people to each other there. That sounded super weird to Liu Ruyan, but since they really would only know each other there, she just shrugged it off. After saying goodbye, she walked Yueyue back to the military compound, but the kid immediately got super gloomy as they got closer. The mother thought she was just sulking about her accident and did not pay much attention, assuming kids get over things fast. Besides, Aotian was her actual dad, so she would forget about it soon, but man, this kid was something else. Although she was mad at first that Aotian did not watch her properly, she knew he would never hurt his own daughter on purpose. He probably just froze in panic when the accident happened. But suddenly, Yueyue stopped dead in her tracks. And get this, she actually asked why her mom and dad had not divorced yet because she wanted to live with Ji Boda. Liu Ruyan instantly locked in and knelt down, demanding to know who taught her that word. The kid got terrified. She had never seen her mom this serious, so she backed up, totally shaking, and stammered her answer. She blinged it on her dad. Hearing this, Liu Ruyan's anger flared right back up. How could a father say that? Talk about toxic. How could her husband mention divorce to a 6-year-old child? What was he even planning? Trying not to explode, she told Yueyue they were not getting a divorce, but the kid was completely confused. She literally asked why, pointing out that her mom was happier with Ji Boda, and they were leaving the dad behind anyway. Liu Ruyan took a deep breath. How could she explain the complex family connections and military stuff to a child? He was a doctor who would be incredibly useful for the border defense soldiers on the island, and her only acquaintance. She actually wanted her whole family to go, but there was only one military slot, so she prioritized the doctor. She planned to bring her husband over later, but explaining all of this to a 6-year-old was way too complicated. So she just swallowed her explanation and seriously told Yueyue to remember one thing. Adults handle adult things. She said Long Aotian would always be her dad and husband, but the kid was still stubborn. Wait, plot twist. The kid revealed that her mom had already signed the actual divorce papers. She said her dad promised they would be divorced once she signed, but Liu Ruyan immediately cut her off. She ordered her not to mention it in front of Aotian, thinking she was just acting up, and dragged her home. Pushing the door open, she expected to see her husband waiting at the table with dinner ready as usual. But when she saw the room, she completely froze. There was indeed a table full of food, but something was wrong.
Her husband was nowhere to be seen. The dishes had gone completely cold, and the house felt totally lifeless. She searched everywhere, but found absolutely nothing. Yueyue tugged her sleeve, sounding low-key scared, asking where her dad was.
Liu Ruyan had no clue where he could even go. Since they married, he spent all his time caring for the family.
He didn't even have a job and mostly stayed in the military compound. Where could he possibly run off to?
But as she looked around, she noticed some things were missing. She rushed to the bedroom and flung open the closet.
To her absolute shock, all of his clothes were completely gone. No shot! Did her husband actually pack up and leave?
Little Yueyue carefully asks where her dad went. Once the initial panic wears off, Liu Ruyan feels something else.
Endless anger takes over instead. Like, is he seriously making a massive deal just because he missed lunch? She's already mad he brought up divorce in front of the kid, and now he is pulling a dramatic exit? Keeping a straight face, she tries to calm her daughter down. She lies and says dad will be back soon. Right then, Yueyu's stomach growls. The poor kid is a super picky eater who barely touched her food at the restaurant earlier. Now she is absolutely starving. Staring at the amazing home-cooked spread her dad left behind, Yueyue begs for food. Ruyan looks at the cold dishes and decides to reheat them. But as she grabs a plate, a small notebook slips out from underneath. It falls right into a tight gap. Ruyan does not even notice it. They quickly eat, and then she goes to treat Yueyu's head injury. After applying medicine, she tucks her in early, but Yueyue holds her hand, begging for a bedtime story. She says her dad always reads to her or she cannot sleep. Ruyan has no choice but to grab a book. She reads for what feels like hours until Yueyue finally drifts off. Honestly, Ruyan is completely exhausted.
Making sure the kid is asleep, she tucks her in and creeps back to her own room, totally drained.
See, our main character, Aotian, used to handle absolutely everything. Ruyan never realized how much effort it actually takes just to get their daughter to sleep. Fatigue hits her hard, and she passes out. The next morning, she tries to play his role by making breakfast. But when she goes to wake Yueyue, the blanket is on the floor. The kid has a bright red face. Ruyan touches her forehead, and it is burning hot. Realizing it is a major emergency, she rushes straight to the clinic. On the way, Yueyue is totally out of it, crying out for her dad. Seeing her daughter suffer like this, Ruyan feels terrible. At the clinic, the doctor finds the kid's fever is almost 40 degrees. Once they start an IV, the doctor sighs. The doctor looks at Ruyan with pure judgment, asking how she could let this happen. High fevers are incredibly dangerous for young kids. The doctor warns her that she needs to check the blankets constantly during the night. Ruyan looks at her weak daughter, her heart breaking. Normally, when the husband was home, Yueyue was always perfectly healthy. She literally had no idea kids kick their blankets off. She never realized you have to wake up constantly. Yueyue's perfect health was actually built on the main character's sleepless nights. And yet, he never complained, even once. Now, Ruyan is hit with a massive wave of guilt. She finally starts to understand. He gave everything to this family while they took it for granted. She even left him behind while taking her toxic friend Ji Boda on vacation. Honestly, who can blame the guy for walking out? Right now, Rianne's resolve is completely shaken. Is she really going to give that precious military slot to Ji Boda? Just then, Yueyue weakly cries out for her dad. She quickly holds her hand, promising her dad will return. Even though the kid liked playing with Ji Boda, her real comfort was always her father. Whenever she is sick, her instinct is to call for her father. Yueyue opens her eyes, but seeing only her mother, her face drops. Tears well up as she begs her mom for the porridge her dad always makes. Hearing this absolutely breaks Ruyan's heart. She wants him back too, but she has absolutely no clue where he is. She can only comfort her. She promises he will return once she gets better. Meanwhile, Ji Boda finds out Yueyue is in the hospital and rushes over. Seeing the kid looking so weak, he acts all shocked and asks Ruyan how this could have happened. He literally tries to blame the main character, asking if Aotian was too angry to care for her. Ruyan frowns instantly. She shuts him down, saying it is not his fault and that she was the careless one. Hearing this, Ji Boda is secretly thrilled.
He is glad the husband finally got out of the way. He looks at Ruyan with fake sympathy, pretending to blame himself.
He asks if Rong Aotian left because of him, but Ruyan is too emotionally drained to care, only wishing her husband would return. She tells him it is not his fault, admitting she and Yueyue really hurt her husband. They will apologize when he returns. Hearing this, Ji Boda completely freezes. There is no way he is letting the main character come back now. He decides to play the nice guy during Yueyue's stay.
He constantly brings food to gain points. Since Ruyan is too exhausted to cook, she just accepts it. Once Yueyue finally recovers, Ruyan makes a big choice.
She sits Yueyue down and asks if they should bring Dad to Nanhai with them instead and wait to bring Ji Boda later.
Yueyue instantly agrees. After being so sick, she misses her dad like crazy. Before, she used to look down on her dad for not having a flashy job. She used to think Ji Boda was cooler because he is a successful doctor, but getting sick made her realize she just wants her dad's warm hugs. Ruyan holds Yueyue's hand and heads straight to Ji Boda's office to reject him. But just as she is about to push the door open, she hears Ji Boda bragging inside. He gloats that Rong Aotian is finally gone and all his plotting paid off. Talk about a plot twist. Ji Boda is bragging that the little brat Yueyue was lucky to survive her fall. He plans to make her disappear once he and Liu Ruyan escape to the island. He even boasts about having Liu Ruyan bear his children. But then, boom, Liu Ruyan kicks the door wide open, her eyes blazing with absolute fury. She glares at the smug bastard, screaming that he is a heartless monster. Ji Boda was having the time of his life chatting with his coworker, completely blindsided by her sudden and terrifying entrance. His face goes pale as he panics, but he tries to play it cool. He stammers that she misheard and that he was just joking around, claiming he would never actually do something so horrible. Tearfully, little Yui points at him in pure rage, yelling that if he had not dragged her away from her dad, she would have never been hurt. She suffered a serious head injury and even lied to protect this scumbag from her mother. She never realized his kindness was just a trap, and finding out the truth is low-key heartbreaking for the kid. Yueyue actually thought this monster cared about her, but it was all a sick lie. Hearing this, Liu Ruyan clenches her fist so hard her knuckles literally start to crack. Her eyes burn with absolute hatred. She growls that it was him all along who hurt her daughter, even though she only looked after him to honor his late sister's final wishes. And yet he tried to murder her child and drive away her husband. Ji Boda looks around in a total panic, desperately begging his coworkers to stand up for him. But the others in the office had already slipped away to avoid getting dragged into this, leaving only the three of them. Knowing his cover is completely blown, the scumbag shivers in pure terror. He stammers out a pathetic excuse, claiming he only did it because he loved her too much and desperately wanted to become her husband. The scumbag begs for forgiveness, claiming he lost his mind for a moment but regretted it instantly, promising he will spend the rest of his life making it up to Yueyue. Liu Ruyan lets out a freezing laugh and grabs him tightly by the throat. She asks who is going to pay for the immense pain her husband and daughter suffered as her grip tightens. He struggles wildly, clawing at her arm, but she does not let go until his eyes start rolling back, tossing him aside like absolute trash, which was so satisfying. She tells him to prepare for prison. Coughing violently on the floor, Ji Boda desperately grabs her leg and begs her to stop, reminding her of the promise he made to his late sister. Looking down at the weeping wreck, her eyes are filled with pure disgust. She coldly snaps that she never promised his sister that she would let him destroy her family. If his sister were still alive to see his disgusting actions, she would probably wish he had never been related to him in the first place. With that, she picks up Yueyue and marches out of the office. Right now, her only priority is to find her husband, no matter what it takes. She is willing to abuse her power as a regiment commander just to track him down. But as she gets Yueyue settled and prepares to mobilize her troops, something stops her. Yueyue grabs her sleeve with teary eyes, asking if she and her father have already gotten a divorce and if he is never coming back. Panic instantly surges through Liu Ruyan. They never divorced, so why does her daughter keep bringing this up? She grips the child's shoulders, demanding to know who told her such a ridiculous lie. Yueyue bursts into tears, explaining that half a month ago, her father brought home a document and said they were going to separate. He told her that as long as her mother signed it, the divorce would be official. Back then, the little girl wanted her mom to be with Ji Boda. So she sneakily handed the paper over for her mother to sign. This revelation hits Liu Ruyan like a truck. She actually signed her own divorce papers without realizing it. She remembers being busy in her study when Yue handed her a random sheet of paper to sign, which she blindly approved. Assuming it was just a standard school form, she signed it without even looking. It turns out she willingly signed away her own marriage. This meant her husband only needed his own signature to easily finalize the divorce. His disappearance these past few days was not a childish tantrum. He was genuinely leaving this family forever. He wanted to completely cut ties with them. Seeing her mother look so utterly devastated, little Yueyue starts crying, begging her to bring her father back home. Seeing her daughter sob in regret, Liu Ruyan is crushed by a wave of intense guilt. If only she had realized what she was doing. If she had just kept her distance from Ji Boda, her daughter would have never been manipulated by him. And her husband would never have left in pure heartbreak. Deep down, she knows it is all her fault, but she still desperately clings to a tiny sliver of hope. Maybe he is just angry and has not finalized anything. She comforts Yueyue, promising her that her father will return. But then something catches her eye in the corner. She pushes the desk aside and carefully picks up a small booklet hidden behind it. When she sees what it is, her heart completely drops. It is an official divorce certificate. Her breath catches as she realizes he already finalized everything the exact day he packed his bags and left.
He has truly abandoned this family. Liu Ruyan pulls Yueyue into her arms. Even when she was shot on active duty, she never shed a single tear.
But now, the tough commander is crying, her voice cracking as she whispers that they will find her husband and beg for his forgiveness. Now that they are legally divorced, she has absolutely no official right to use her power as a regiment commander to mobilize troops and look for him. Desperate, she carries Yue and knocks on the chief of staff's door. The chief is shocked to see the legendary commander looking so pale and defeated. He asks what is wrong, and she rasps out that her husband left home after a fight, begging him to help track down his location. The chief frowns, looking at her in utter confusion. He tells her that her husband, Aotian, was selected as a pilot half a month ago. He has already left for training, asking how she, as his wife, could possibly not know this. His words hit her like a devastating lightning bolt. Yueyue immediately bursts into tears, crying that her dad does not want her anymore. Liu Ruyan stands there completely frozen in silence. She finally asks in a hollow voice when he will return, mentioning she is scheduled to deploy to the South Sea next month. Realizing they had a massive falling out, the chief lets out a heavy sigh. He explains that once pilots are selected, they remain stationed permanently. Aotian is never coming back. 3 years later, on a remote island, a helicopter lands, and as he steps off, a little boy runs up and hugs his leg, calling him Dad.
Little Xiaonian brags about being a brave boy on the flight. Aotian can't help but pinch his nose.
Aotian asks what his brave guy wants. After some deep thought, the boy's eyes completely light up.
Just some sweet and sour ribs, that's all he wants. The kid is way too clever.
Aotian laughs. For 3 years, Xiaonian's weight has been shooting up from loving his dad's cooking too much.
To keep him healthy, Aotian switched to low-salt meals. High-sugar ribs have been off the menu for months. Classic excuse. Xiaonian was just craving the ribs, but acted thoughtful, earning a quick, playful forehead flick.
Caught red-handed, the little guy deflates and rubs his tummy, complaining that his stomach is suffering.
Aotian bursts out laughing. He promises his dramatic son that they will have those ribs tonight. Instantly hyped, Xiaonian raises a chubby fist and cheers that his dad is literally the best. Seeing that smile, priceless. All the exhaustion from their 3-hour flight completely melts away. Then a familiar voice teases them. Xia asks when the kid will ever lose weight with all this spoiling. Aotian just smiles at her helpless look. Just this once, he says.
Xia sighs. She knows Aotian can never say no to this kid, so she offers to carry him.
He hands the sleepy boy over. It's time to find their dorm and inspect the setup. Aotian wants to make sure they have kitchenware. Xia jokes that this feels like a picnic, not a military exercise.
Chatting and laughing, they head inside, unpack, and quickly run out to grab groceries before the base shops close.
Soon, the heavenly aroma of ribs fills the room. Xiaonian sniffs the air, completely losing his mind.
Xia laughs at his excitement. Dieting must have been absolute torture for the poor kid.
She looks at Aotian busy in the kitchen, her eyes filled with tenderness. Finally, dinner is served.
Xiaonian sits down, perfectly behaved, waiting patiently for his massive bowl of rice.
Eat up, Aotian says, but tomorrow we go straight back to the healthy diet. The sweet little guy happily agrees, bringing a warm smile to Xia's face as she watches them. But then she hesitates. Looking at Aotian, a hint of worry flashes in her eyes as she mentions Nanhai. Xia knows that Aotian's ex, Liu Ruyan, is stationed here. She's terrified of a painful reunion.
Honestly, that toxic past is long gone. The deep scars have finally healed for our main character. It's a massive coastline, Aotian reassures her. There is almost zero chance they'll run into her anyway.
Talk about famous last words. Later that evening, they take a peaceful walk along the beach.
Since Xiaonian grew up in the city, seeing the ocean for the first time has him completely hyped.
Aotian yells for him to slow down. But too late. The little guy trips. Reacting on pure instinct, Aotian dives forward and pulls the boy close to shield him from the hard stones.
He takes the brunt of the fall, badly scraping his arm, and Xia rushes over in a panic.
Xiaonian bursts into tears. Seeing his dad bleeding to protect him, he blames himself for running. Seeing their sheer panic warms Aotian's heart. He smiles, trying to reassure them that he's fine.
It's just a surface cut, but it definitely looks pretty gnarly. Before he can speak, two familiar voices call out from behind. It's Liu Ruyan and her daughter. I did not see this coming. Yueyue, who hasn't seen Aotian in 3 years, instantly loses her composure.
She tears up, running forward to throw herself into his arms and crying about how much she missed him.
Of all the places, they really had to land on the exact island Liu Ruyan is stationed at.
But as the girl leaps forward, Ocean grabs Xiaonian and smoothly steps aside, dodging the hug entirely.
Not wanting his son dragged into this drama, Aotian asks Xia to take Xiaonian back to the dorm.
Xiaonian is worried about his dad's arm, but obediently nods, and Xia immediately picks him up.
Xia gives the ex-wife a cold stare and promises she'll be waiting for him before walking away. Once they leave, Yue demands to know why that other kid called him dad. Aotian calmly replies that Xiaonian is his son, making Yueyue burst into tears of pure confusion.
Liu Ruyan narrows her eyes, pointing out that the boy is 5, meaning Aotian cannot be his biological father. When training ends, a child's heart-wrenching cry echoes from the office. Driven by instinct, Aotian follows the sound.
Opening the door, he finds Li Xia frantically trying to comfort a baby. That's Xiaonian, crying so hard he's almost fainting.
Aotian gently takes the baby into his arms and patiently calms him. Soon, Xiaonian stops crying and falls asleep.
Li Xia explains that the boy's parents died serving their country, so the military is raising him now. Since she has zero childcare experience, she's always overwhelmed. Sharing a similar background, Aotian immediately feels for the kid. He visits after training every single day. Eventually, Xiaonian starts viewing him as dad and Li Xia as mom. Though not related, Aotian considers him his only child. Hearing this, Yueyue bursts into tears, crying for her dad. Liu Ruyan hugs her daughter, looking completely devastated. She begs Aotian, admitting they were wrong 3 years ago.
But she insists he can't deny Yueyue is his daughter. They've spent 3 long years searching for him. Aotian scoffs with pure sarcasm. My child wouldn't bring another man to Parent-Teacher Day to play dad.
Both mother and daughter freeze, shocked that he knows. Turning pale, Liu Ruyan desperately claims Yueyue was just tricked by Ji Boda. She claims the kid was too young to know better. Aotian looks at her coldly. Then why did you lie about having a mission? Aotian doesn't care. No amount of excuses can ever erase the deep trauma they inflicted on him. He tells her he's only here for a mission and leaves next month. He tells them to pretend they never met.
She can't believe it. How can he abandon them? Aotian almost laughs. They were the ones who pushed him away first. They made it clear there was no room for him. He left so Ji Boda could play happy family with them. Liu Ruyan panics, explaining she only took care of Ji Boda because he was related to her adoptive father's comrade.
It was a deathbed promise, she insists, swearing she had no feelings. After Aotian left, she realized the truth.
Turns out she threw Ji Boda in prison for attempted murder. Serves him right, he's locked up forever.
Aotian is genuinely surprised. He never knew this backstory. Seeing his silence, she thinks he is wavering.
She keeps begging, telling him they finally know they were wrong and want him back.
If he wants to keep flying, she'll even apply to get them all transferred to Capital City.
Yueyue looks up with hope, but Aotian shakes his head, shattering their illusions. Honestly, thank goodness he moved on. To him, they are just familiar strangers now. He turns and walks away, leaving them standing there completely alone. The little girl grips her mother's hand, asking if Dad really doesn't want her anymore. Liu Ruyan's lips tremble. She wants to reassure her, but her throat feels tight, completely choked up. To avoid them, Aotian keeps his distance. He sticks strictly to his dorm and the training field. Even when he feels their burning stares, he totally ignores them. Finally, the day of the official drill arrives. Dressed in blue with his helmet in hand, Aotian steps out.
This is the ultimate test of their 3 years of training, and he must deliver.
But downstairs, the mother and daughter are waiting. He tries to ignore them, but she calls out his name. With a bitter smile, she apologizes and explains she had a dream last night about their original timeline. In that timeline, she abandoned him to toil his entire life while taking all the military glory. Without even mentioning his name, she only thanked Ji Boda. Tears streamed down her face. Honestly, she never believed in rebirth, but that dream connected all the dots about why Aotian left.
Aotian also remembered the past life and chose divorce to escape his tragic fate. She wants to make things right. But waking up, she couldn't forget the look of sheer despair in his eyes right before he died in that dream.
It broke her heart to realize how she and her daughter literally ruined his entire life. How could she ask for forgiveness now? Honestly, Aotian did not expect her to find out. Except it's too late. He changed his destiny, and her late regrets mean absolutely nothing. He tells them to stay away. In his eyes, they are the executioners of his past life. She has no comeback. Even Yueyue realizes what they did. The kid keeps her head down, too ashamed to look him in the eye. With assembly time close, he walks past. He ignores them and heads straight to the airfield, boarding his fighter jet like a pro. Strapping in, he puts on his helmet. Jet number 2568 is ready. Hundreds of jets soar into the sky. Leaving majestic trails in the clouds, the squadron flies. Below, Liu Ruyan and her daughter watch from afar, tears in their eyes. Yueyue asks if Dad is really leaving for good after this. Her mother gently tells her that he is pursuing his dreams. The drill is over. The next day, the pilots pack up and head back, but Liu Ruyan and her daughter do not see him off. Instead, they just watch his jet fade away, locking its serial number into their hearts. Years pass, and even after her daughter leaves Huludao for college, Liu Ruyan remains stationed on that coastal defense line. Every single time a plane roars by, she looks up, searching. This slow burn is low-key heartbreaking, because she knows looking up at that empty sky is the closest she will ever get to him again.